Welcome back, everyone. Today's deep dive is extra interesting, actually. It's a listener request to explore a concept from a specific spiritual perspective.
Ooh, I love those. It's always fascinating to see how different traditions interpret, like, universal principles, you know?
Absolutely. So we're diving into this YouTube video called Learning This Law Will Change Your Life, Israelite Teaching from the channel Prophecy Ministries.
Okay.
And the speaker in this video, he's addressing a live audience during a Sabbath service and really dives into the law of cause and effect from like a theological viewpoint, rooted in the Israelite tradition, and the teachings of Yahweh.
I see. Yeah.
It actually starts with a prayer invoking Yahweh's guidance and blessings upon the listeners, which I thought was a beautiful way to set the tone.
Oh, for sure. Prayer is such a fundamental part of the Israelite faith, you know? It's about connecting with Yahweh, seeking guidance, and acknowledging his presence in all things. It's like opening a channel, right? For communication and aligning yourself with, divine will.
Definitely creates a sense of reverence and intention, for sure. So getting into the meat of the video, the speaker emphasizes that this law of cause and effect is woven throughout Scripture. He does it simply like, every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Okay, yeah, that's a principle that like resonates far beyond just the Israelite tradition, right? It's echoed in physics, philosophy, even psychology. We see it in Newton's third law of motion, the concept of karma in Eastern religions, even in modern psychology with the idea that our thoughts and behaviors create our reality.
It's crazy how this one principle shows up everywhere.
Yeah.
So the speaker, he goes on to illustrate this law with a bunch of examples from the Bible. And he starts with Baruch 4.1, which states that keeping the commandments leads to life, while leaving them, well, it leads to death. So this really emphasizes the idea that our choices have consequences.
Exactly. It's not about it like, a punitive God waiting to punish us, but about understanding that our actions create ripples that affect our lives and the lives of others, It's about aligning ourselves with Yahweh's laws, not out of fear, but out of a desire to live a life that's in harmony with his will and brings about blessings.
It makes me think about how often we try to outsmart the natural order of things, like thinking we can eat junk food all the time and not have it impact our health. You know what I mean? There's a real sense of accountability in this law.
Oh, absolutely. And that accountability, it isn't meant to be burdensome, but rather imperative. It means that we have the ability to shape our lives and our destinies by making conscious choices. It's like realizing you have the power to steer the ship instead of just being tossed about by the waves.
Totally. Okay, so then he brings up Baruch 4.2, which focuses on the idea that walking in the presence of the light, specifically the law, like brings illumination.
Hmm. This connects beautifully with the concept of wisdom. It suggests that by studying and living according to Yahweh's teachings, we gain clarity and understanding. It's like having a lamp to guide our steps through life's darkness.
Love that. He also mentions Baruch 4.3, which urges listeners to hold on to the word of Yahweh and not let others, dictate their beliefs.
Right.
In today's world, with so much information, misinformation swirling around, this feels incredibly relevant.
Oh, it is. It's a reminder to cultivate discernment, to develop a strong inner compass rooted in faith and personal connection with Yahweh. It's about not blindly following trends or opinions, but seeking truth through prayer, study, and reflection.
Right.
It's about owning your faith journey.
Yeah, and it makes me think about all the, the heated debates we see online where people are so quick to judge and condemn others for having different beliefs. It's a reminder to approach those conversations with humility and understanding,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that everyone is on their own path.
Exactly. It's not about silencing opposing views, but about engaging in respectful dialogue, seeking common ground, and recognizing the inherent dignity of each individual, even when their beliefs differ from our own.
Absolutely. Then the speaker hits us with a really powerful verse from Job 4.8. Those who plow iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same. This imagery of planting and harvesting, it really drives home the point, doesn't it?
Oh, it's such a vivid analogy. It's not just about, abstract consequences, but about understanding that our actions, whether good or bad, have, tangible results. It's about recognizing that we are constantly planting seeds with our thoughts, our words, and deeds, and the harvest we reach will reflect what we've sown.
It's like that saying, you can't plant thorn and expect to pick roses, right? It's a universal truth we see play out in nature all the time.
Totally. And it applies equally to our spiritual lives, right? If we want to experience peace, joy, and abundance, we need to plant the seeds of love, kindness, and righteousness. It's not about magical thinking, but about understanding the natural order of things established by Yahweh.
It reminds me of that trend on social media where people are sharing their acts of kindness
Oh, yeah.
and challenging others to do the same.
Yeah.
It's like a modern-day example of sowing good seeds and watching them ripple outwards.
Exactly. It shows how small acts of love and generosity can have a profound impact on others, creating a positive chain reaction. It's a reminder that we all have the power to make a difference, no matter how small our actions may seem.
Yeah. Then the speaker, he brings up Ecclesiastes 8.11-12, which talks about how the delay of consequences for wicked actions can mislead people into thinking they can get away with sinning.
Ooh, that's such an important point. It reminds us that just because we don't experience immediate consequences, it doesn't mean our actions are without repercussions. It's like thinking you can overdraw your bank account indefinitely without facing the consequences, right? Eventually, the bill will come due.
Yeah, so it's not about living in fear of punishment, but about understanding that there's a natural order to things, a balance that will eventually be restored.
Right. It's about trusting in Yahweh's justice and recognizing that ultimately those who live in alignment with his will reap the blessings, while those who choose to walk in darkness will face the consequences of their choices. But it's never too late to turn back to the light.
Right. And to illustrate this law of cause and effect in a more down-to-earth way, the speaker, he uses everyday examples like running wheels and gardens.
Okay, yeah. That's a great way to connect these ancient principles to modern life. He's basically saying that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same result.
Right. Like if you keep hitting the snooze button every morning, you're going to be late for work.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing patterns in our lives and making conscious choices to break free from those that aren't serving us.
Absolutely. It's about taking responsibility for our actions and understanding that we have the power to change. It's not about blaming others or making excuses, but recognizing that we are the authors of our own stories.
Love it. He then goes on to explain the seed principle, using the simple but powerful analogy of planting seeds.
Yeah.
He says you can't plant apples and harvest oranges. This is where things start to get really interesting for me.
Oh, yeah, it is. It goes beyond just reaping what we sow. It's about understanding the quality of the seeds we're planting. Are we planting seeds of love, kindness, and faith? Or are we planting seeds of anger, resentment, and doubt? The harvest will reflect the quality of the seed.
It's a reminder to be mindful of our thoughts, words, and actions, because they are the seeds that will shape our future.
Exactly. It's about being intentional with our choices, recognizing that even small acts of kindness or moments of negativity can have a ripple effect on our lives and the lives of others.
And he specifically applies this to relationships, saying that planting hope and positive actions will yield a bountiful harvest. This feels so relevant to so many of the relationship challenges people are facing these days.
It is. It's easy to get caught up in negativity, especially when dealing with conflict or hurt feelings. But this principle, it reminds us that we have the power to shift the dynamic by consciously choosing to plant seeds of love, forgiveness, and understanding.
Yeah, it's like choosing to water the flowers instead of focusing on the weeds.
Yeah.
It requires effort and intentionality, but the rewards are worth it.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that relationships are like gardens. They require nurturing, care, and sometimes even a bit of pruning. But with the right attention and intention, they can blossom into something truly beautiful.
Okay, so then he introduces this framework for understanding how the law of cause and effect works on different levels. He says transformation must begin in the spirit, then manifest in the mind, and finally take shape in the physical realm.
This is where we start to see the depth and complexity of this principle. It's not just about external actions, but about an inner transformation that ripples outward.
So it's like starting with the core, the spiritual level, and then letting that transformation work its way out into our thoughts, beliefs, and ultimately our actions.
Exactly. It's about aligning our inner world with our outer world so that our actions become a reflection of our true selves, guided by Yahweh's will.
This feels like it could be a whole deep dive on its own. I'm curious to hear more about how this process unfolds, but I think we're nearing the end of part one. What a great start to this exploration.
It is a fascinating journey, isn't it? This whole idea that change starts from within and ripples outwards. It's like, a seed sprouting beneath the surface, sending up shoots that eventually blossom into something beautiful.
And speaking of blossoming, I'm curious about how this spiritual transformation manifests in our thoughts and actions. What does that even look like in practical terms?
Well, think of it this way. Okay, so our thoughts are like the soil in which our actions grow. If the soil is fertile and nourished, our actions will be healthy and fruitful. But if the soil is depleted and contaminated, our actions will be like stunted and unhealthy. The speaker in the video, he emphasizes that true transformation, it begins with cultivating a connection with Yahweh. This could be through prayer, studying scripture, spending time in nature, or any practice that, nourishes your spirit.
So it's like taking the time to tend to our inner garden, you know, pulling out the weeds of negative thoughts and planting seeds of faith, hope, and love.
Exactly. And as those seeds take root in our hearts and minds, they naturally begin to influence our actions. We start to make choices that are aligned with Yahweh's will, not because we feel forced, but because it feels like the most natural and fulfilling way to live.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like our actions become an expression of our inner transformation rather than like a set of rules we're trying to follow.
Precisely. And as we continue to cultivate our spiritual connection, our thoughts and actions become more and more aligned with Yahweh's teachings. It's a gradual process, but the more we surrender to his guidance, the more we experience the fruit of living in harmony with his will.
The speaker then brings up Matthew 7:12, the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. He connects this directly to the law of cause and effect, emphasizing the principle of reciprocity. What you put out into the world is what you get back.
Oh, that's such a universal principle, isn't it? It's found in almost every major religion and ethical system. It speaks to the interconnectedness of like all things, the idea that we are not isolated individuals, but part of a web of relationships.
And it's so relevant to like what's happening in the world today. With all the division and conflict, it's easy to get caught up in like negativity and fear. But this principle, it reminds us that we have the power to choose love over hate, kindness over cruelty, and forgiveness over resentment.
And those choices, they have a ripple effect. When we choose to act with love, we create a positive energy that spreads outwards,
Right.
influencing those around us and even impacting the world at large. It's like throwing a pebble into a pond and watching the ripples expand outwards.
I'm also thinking about how this principle plays out on a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I'm constantly, complaining and gossiping, I'm putting out negative energy that will inevitably attract more negativity into my life. But if I choose to, like, focus on gratitude, kindness, and compassion, I'm creating a more positive atmosphere that will attract more of those things.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that we are not just passive recipients of the world around us, but active creators. We have the power to shape our reality with our thoughts, our words, and our actions.
The speaker then brings us to what he calls the ultimate example of the law of cause and effect, salvation. He cites verses from Deuteronomy 30 and Romans 10, which emphasize the choice between life and death, blessing and cursing.
These passages, they're so powerful because they highlight the transformative power of aligning ourselves with Yahweh's will. It's not about earning our way into heaven through good deeds, but about accepting the gift of salvation through faith in Yahshua.
And he really emphasizes that confessing faith in Yahshua is the key to unlocking that transformative power.
From like a theological perspective, this act of confession, it represents a profound shift in one's spiritual orientation. It's a turning away from darkness and a turning towards the light, a surrender to Yahweh's guidance, and a commitment to living according to his will.
So it's like setting a new course for your life, one that's guided by faith and a desire to walk in Yahweh's ways.
Exactly. It's a conscious choice to step out of the shadows and into the light, to embrace the path of righteousness and experience the blessings that come with it. It's not a guarantee of a life free from challenges, but it's a promise of guidance, strength, and unwavering love from Yahweh.
It's amazing how this one concept, the law of cause and effect, can encompass so much, from our everyday choices to our eternal destiny. It really is a principle that can change your life if you embrace it.
It's a testament to the wisdom and depth of the Israelite teachings. It's about understanding that we are not just random being and floating through life, but purposeful creations with the power to choose our path and shape our reality in accordance with Yahweh's will.
It's empowering, isn't it? Knowing that we have agency, that our choices matter, and that we have the potential to create a life of meaning and purpose.
Absolutely. It's about stepping into our role as co-creators with Yahweh,
Right.
trusting in his guidance, and walking the path of righteousness with courage and conviction. And as we do, we'll begin to see the fruits of our actions blossom in our lives and the lives of those around us.
So as we wrap up part 2 of this deep dive, I want to ask you a question that's been kind of swirling in my mind.
Okay.
What are some practical ways the listener can apply this law of cause and effect to their daily life?
Mm,
What are some, like, seeds they can plant today that will create positive change?
that's a great question. I think the first step is like cultivating awareness. Start paying attention to your thoughts, your words, and actions. Are they aligned with the kind of life you want to create? Are they sowing seeds of love, kindness, and righteousness? Or are they perpetuating negativity and discord? Once you become aware of the seeds you're planting, you can start making, conscious choices to shift your patterns.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like taking inventory of your inner garden and making a plan for what you want to cultivate.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to start small.
Mm-hmm.
Even seemingly insignificant actions, like offering a kind word to a stranger or taking 5 minutes to meditate, can have a ripple effect. Remember, every seed has the potential to grow into something magnificent.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
Yeah.
I'm already starting to see the world differently, like a vast garden where we all have the power to plant seeds of hope, healing, and transformation.
It's a beautiful way to look at it, isn't it? And it's a reminder that we're all connected, that our actions have consequences, and that we have the power to choose love and create a more beautiful world, one seed at a time.
I'm feeling so inspired. I can't wait to dive into part 3 and explore some more practical applications of this powerful principle. All right, welcome back to our deep dive. It feels like we've uncovered so much already, exploring this concept of the law of cause and effect through the lens of the Israelite tradition.
Yeah, it's amazing how this one principle can offer like such profound insights into, how we live our lives, shape our reality, and connect with Yahweh.
Absolutely. So as we move into part 3, I'm really curious to explore some practical applications of this concept. How can we actually start planting those good seeds in our daily lives?
Well, one thing that really struck me in the video was the speaker's emphasis on the 3 levels of transformation, spiritual, mental, and physical. And he really stressed that true change begins in the spirit.
Yeah, you use the analogy of a tree, saying that the roots represent the spiritual level, the trunk represents the mental level, and then the branches and fruit represent the physical, manifestation of our actions.
Right.
Love that visual.
It's so powerful, right? It reminds us that if we want to see lasting change in our lives, we need to nourish our spiritual roots. That's where the transformation, begins.
So what are some ways we can tend to those spiritual roots? I know the speaker mentioned pray and studying scripture, but are there other practices that can help us cultivate that connection with Yahweh?
Absolutely. Spending time in nature is a beautiful way to connect with Yahweh's creation and feel his presence.
Yeah.
You could also explore practices like meditation, contemplation, or even journaling.
Right.
The key is to find what resonates with you and helps you feel that sense of connection.
It's like creating a sacred space in your life, a time and place where you can quiet your mind, listen to your heart, and connect with the divine.
Exactly. And as you nourish your spiritual roots, you'll naturally start to see changes in your thoughts and beliefs. The speaker, he talked about how negative thoughts are like weeds that can choke out the growth of our spiritual garden.
He said that we need to be vigilant about pulling out those weeds and replacing them with seeds of faith, hope, and love.
Right. It's a practice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just like tending a physical garden requires constant weeding and nurturing, so too does, tending our inner garden.
And that brings us to the kind of the physical level, the actions we take in the world. The speaker emphasized that our actions are the fruits of our spiritual and mental transformation.
Right. So if we've been diligently tending to our inner garden, planting seeds of love, kindness, and righteousness, those qualities will naturally begin to, manifest in our actions.
It's like that saying, you can't fake a good heart. Our actions will ultimately reveal the state of our inner being.
Precisely. And as we continue to act in alignment with Yahweh's will, we'll start to experience the positive consequences of those actions. We'll see our relationships flourish, our health improve, and our lives become more fulfilling and purposeful.
It's a beautiful cycle, isn't it? The more we nurture our spiritual connection, the more our thoughts and actions become aligned with Yahweh's will. and the more we experience the blessing of living a righteous life.
Yeah, it's a testament to the power of this law of cause and effect. It's not about trying to manipulate the universe to get what we want, but about understanding the natural order of things and aligning ourselves with it.
And it's not just about, individual transformation, right? The speaker also talked about how our actions can have a ripple effect on the world around us.
Right. He gave the example of a single act of kindness having the potential to spark a chain reaction of positivity.
It makes me think about all the social movements and initiatives that have started with just one person's vision and determination. It's a reminder that we all have the power to make a difference, no matter how small our actions may seem.
Absolutely. And when we combine our individual efforts with a collective intention to create positive change, we can achieve truly remarkable things.
This deep dive has been such a rich and thought-provoking exploration. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of the law of cause and effect and its implications for my life and the world around me.
It's a principle that can guide us in every aspect of our lives, from our personal relationships to our social activism. It's a reminder that we're not just passive observers, but active participants in shaping our reality.
So as we wrap up this fascinating conversation, I want to leave you with one final question to ponder.
Okay.
If you could plant one seed today to create the reality you desire, what would it be? What intention, action, or belief can you cultivate to bring more love, joy, and purpose into your life and the lives of those around you?
That's a beautiful question to reflect on. Remember, every seed has the potential to blossom into something extraordinary. Choose wisely, nurture with care, and watch the magic unfold.
Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey. May you be blessed with wisdom, clarity, and the courage to plant seeds of goodness wherever you go. Or